So I'm Penny Edwards. We're the Waste, Food and Circular Economy Group. We're an all-female team, and that's who we are. We can provide second names if they're required. We had two big ideas, community composting and biotechnology clusters. As you can see from this drawing, the group's skills, experience and interests were poured into the community composting. You know, that was where our passion lay. But that's not to say that we didn't really think there was a lot in the biotechnology clusters area. It's just that we didn't really have the type of group with the business skills and that sort of thing to really sort of nurture that. My first slide, or my next slide, is going to be just on that biotechnology clusters, and then the rest of the presentation is going to focus on the community composting. So the biotechnology clusters, we were completely blown away with the potential of this, of using food waste to make high value products, as opposed to compost, which is a rather lower value product. This is looking at using wastes like waste food, distillery waste, brewery, farm waste to make products like fish and animal feed, human food, construction materials. We looked in some detail at the propagation of mushrooms and insects, which are incredibly modular. They can be done at a small scale, but they're scalable. So really interesting for the sort of setup in the Highlands. It very much, this sort of thing fits with the developing policy and support structures that are in place. Like, I mean, Zero Waste Scotland has done loads of work on this and would be a really good collaborator. So big opportunities, I think, for businesses. And we were thinking this would link, if local food clusters were being set up, this would be a really good area for groups of producers to get involved with each other. But I'm going to leave that behind because this is our big project proposition. You told us to be ambitious, and we have been. We're proposing community composting of food waste in 100 Highland villages and districts by 2025. The aims of the project are reduce food waste. So reduce food waste, note that. So this is people produce less food waste in 40,000 participating households by 1/3. Also to reduce residual food waste, so the stuff you have to waste, to landfill by 6,200 tonnes and to create over 20 green jobs. Why do we want to do this? Well, in the Highlands, only 24% of the population have food waste collections, and that is only in Inverness, so nowhere else has a food waste collection. 3 kilograms of food waste per household per week goes into landfill. And on top of that, there's a ban of biodegradables going into landfill by 2025. So a solution is needed, ideally a local solution. The other really key point is we believe that composting is a way in to behaviour change. There's also a huge opportunity to reduce CO2 emissions by reducing landfill emissions from methane, but also just to produce less food waste and to eat more of what's being produced. So really big opportunities there. And the other thing that you get, of course, is compost to support local food growing. So why have we focused in on the community scale? Well, we looked at home and business scale composting, and obviously that's really, really important and everybody can play their part. But we felt that probably initiatives and resources already exist to promote this, and there's probably less scope for really widespread behaviour change. We also looked at larger scale, regional scale composting, and we know there's companies, private companies like Keenan's and Ritchie's, and there's definitely scope to work with them. But again, we thought there was probably less opportunity at that scale for widespread behaviour change. And that brings us to community composting, which we really thought was the sweet spot, the spot that fills the gap. We think there's tried and tested technology. We think there's proven behaviour change outcomes. The pilots and the demos are done. It's ready for rollout. So this is the technology we're thinking about. It's called the Big Hanna, Swedish machines. On the left, you'll see a picture of one that's suitable for about 100 households. And I've given a few statistics there just so you can gauge the size, the scale of it, and some of the CO2 savings. Much bigger machines are available. And on the right, the picture is the different scales. The thing about this technology is it's smart. There's an automatic aeration system, so you don't have to have someone digging, every day or so. It's low energy, it produces its own heat, obviously, and it can potentially achieve accredited compost. Sorry for all these figures, but I've highlighted the lines that I think are sort of the most significant. Across the top, the different models of these big Hannahs, the number of households they serve. So you can see that they go up to 500 or 600 households and beyond. And then the greenhouse gas emission savings that they can give rise to. So the key elements of our project, there'll be a big Hannah composter scaled to suit each participating village or neighbourhood. It will be located in a community facility, ideally a school, because that is where there's a real opportunity to kickstart school and community engagement with food, and a link there potentially with the schools group. It would have a permanent shared workforce, very much trained and skilled in composting. And every big Hannah would have a community support group to help reduce food waste. There's proven success at that. In Whitmuir Farm, they achieved a 30% reduction in food waste. And a similar sort of project, the Tesco No Time for Waste campaign, actually working with families, they got a 76% reduction in food waste. So it does work. And there's an opportunity for a sale of compost under some sort of shared brand, which I'm sure links with other groups' findings. Resources needed would be 100 composting sites, as I said, ideally at schools, 100 sheds or polytunnels to put it in, some sort of collecting arrangements, could be self-service or collecting service. We thought 20 composting jobs and 2 management jobs would cover it. We'd need a community group for each Hannah, big Hannah, or community champions to support, educate and promote, and obviously the capital costs for setup. Now, these are back of the envelope costs, and I'm going to give credit to Pete Ritchie, who was really helpful because he has experience of operating one of these machines. 100 composters in sheds with kit, 4 million. It sounds a big figure, but depreciated over 10 years, that's £400,000. The jobs, the skilled work, £600,000. And all importantly, activities to reduce food waste, £200,000. So total annual project cost, 1.2 million, with a whole load of benefits that come from that. How do we pay for it? Well, our first thought is to apply cost savings resulting from mainly a reduction in municipal waste collections. If you imagine that people are not putting 3 kilograms of food waste into their bin, then the bins won't get smelly, and what was a 2-week collection could go to a monthly collection potentially. There's also a saving with dealing with less biodegradable waste. There's an opportunity to sell compost, probably not a massive income stream, but still there. We thought about sponsorship from supermarkets. The co-op is ubiquitous across the Highlands, and it would be really good if they would support this at a strategic level. Capturing externalities is always an attractive one, but obviously requires policy change. And there are, of course, grants. Scottish Landfill Communities Fund might be particularly apt, but there's a danger of relying on grants, as we all know. In terms of next actions, we think that briefing MSPs would be a good start, because this is such a good fit with green recovery, climate emergency, circular economy bill, all these things. Discussions with Highland Council to agree a plan linked to future savings, and very importantly, gauging community interest and what their input would be to identify where these could go, and the preparation of a business plan. We started this discussion with an example in Thurso, and it'd be really nice to see the first big Hannah there. One of our group members is a poet and obviously a very visual person, and we've got this beautiful drawing based on a mountain avens, which is a iconic Highland plant that really sets out all the inputs and outcomes of a community food waste composting project. And it's got a little bit in the corner about the biotechnology stuff as well. I'd like to thank the people who visited our group, who were fantastic, gave us a really lot of useful material, and there's some of our references there.